I'm a hypocrite, and so are you. Just kidding. Actually, no, I'm not kidding. We all are hypocrites. It's not as bad as it sounds, actually. And I'm going to tell you why if you stick around. But before I say anything, I'm a hypocrite, but also I'm pretty rude because I didn't say hi first. So, hi, everybody, and welcome to my channel. Welcome back to everybody who's been here before. It's a pleasure to continue those conversations. And as I mentioned, today is about our hypocrisy. And just before anybody start thinking that I'm going to drag you or anything like that, I just want to say it's all about all of us. So obviously, I'm going to drag myself too, because otherwise, what would that make me? Exactly. So before I say anything else, let me see what a hypocrite is. Why don't we do that? So the definition by Merriam-Webster is that number one, it's a person who puts on a false appearance of virtue or religion. Number two, a person who acts in contradiction to their stated beliefs or feelings. So, number one, people who fall in that number one category, I would call them flaming hypocrites, because those people actually are pretty dangerous because they know that what they're saying that they believe in, they actually don't believe. And they use that to their benefit to take advantage of other people and to gain something, whether that be money or just power, more power. And you usually found that in people who are already in positions of power, people are aspiring to be in positions of power, like politicians. Um, they say a lot of things that they don't believe, but they make you think that they believe that so that you can vote for them or give them money so that they can access the positions that they are aspiring to. You also find that in religious leaders who tell you that they believe a lot of things, and they tell you that if you don't believe those things or if you don't do the things that you're supposed to do, then you're going to go to hell. They love sending people to hell. Don't you? Have you found that too? Yeah, they love to do that. But then they're going to say all that to you and then turn around and do the opposite. Sometimes they don't even turn around, they just do the opposite. And then they just find a way to justify why it's okay for them to do it, but it's not okay for you to do it. So those people are like what I would call flaming hypocrites. And I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about number two, which are people like you and me. Everyday people. We're not trying to take advantage of anybody. I don't think you are. I'm not. Okay. At least not that I'm aware of. I would say adults in particular, because I don't think children, like babies, do babies have beliefs? I don't know. Maybe they have beliefs, but can they really be hypocrites? Because I don't know. We have to, you know, investigate that further. But let's say adults with fully formed brains who have beliefs that they state, and they strongly believe in those things. They have values and all those things, and then do things that don't align with those beliefs and values. That's us. We do that all the time. And the reason why I was telling you earlier that it's not that bad as it sounds is because it's also a product of just being a human being on this earth. If you're part of this society, you're going to be a hypocrite. Because let's face it, most everything that we use or that we consume is something that's been made somewhere or by a company that exploits people. Just look at your phone, my phone, or your car, or whatever. Anything that has cobalt in it. Do you know that it is part of the reason why there's a genocide in the Congo? Did you know that? Yes. And now that, if you didn't know that before I just told you, now that you know, what are you going to do about it? Just throw your phone away. Whoa, 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 wait. Don't throw your phone away right now. Just finish the video and then you can do whatever you want. But stick around. So let's say you finish watching the video and then now you know that your phone has been made with like something that's destroying life somewhere else. So what are you going to do? Are you going to also get rid of your car? Are you going to just like whatever clothes you're wearing is possibly made in a sweatshop where people are being exploited? So what are you going to do? Just get rid of everything? Let me know in the comments. I'll be interested to know. But those are the things that we do all the time that are part of being part of the society, because this is the way the society has been constructed, and that's how we've been functioning. So some of us are able to participate less in this type of hypocrisy by kind of removing themselves from like the consumerism of the society, and so then they don't have to use those type of things that are the reason why a lot of people are being exploited around the world. At the same time, you can say to yourself as well, they're being exploited, but you know, would that make a difference if I, just me, stop using that product or stop buying those things? Would that really make a difference in those people's lives? You have to ask yourself that. And then live with whatever decision you decide to make. So that's the type of daily hypocrisy that we all have to face, and that I wanted to talk about because this is a real thing. And there are also like other things that just not practicing what you preach. This is also being a hypocrite, and we do that all the time. A friend comes to you and asks you for a piece of advice, and they're like, "Oh, I'm having trouble with my partner, and I don't know what to do. They're being, you know, things are not going well," and you say, "Oh, dump him." I don't know why I said that, but let's say that's your advice to that person, and then they say, "Okay," they end up doing it or not doing it. But when when it happens to you, you're the one in the situation where you're having trouble in your relationship, and it's very similar to what your friend was telling you, and you should be taking your own advice by dumping him, and you don't. And sometimes you don't even tell your friends what's happening because you know that your friend is going to tell you the same thing: dump him. And then you don't, because then you start making excuses. You start explaining to yourself why it's not the same thing, and why the advice that you give your friend doesn't apply to you. Maybe it's true, but maybe it isn't. And we do that all the time. Other ways that because I have to bring myself to the carpet, right? I already told you the things that we do, like in general, but let's talk about me. I'm very into self-care. I talk about it all the time, and I've become, better at it over the years, but I still suck. Right now, I shouldn't be actually recording this video because I'm exhausted. I've had a very long day. It's really late. I have an early morning, and yet I'm not taking care of myself the way I should. If a friend or, any loved one, even a stranger, came to me asking me for advice or asking me, what should they do in a situation like that? Usually I stay away from giving people advice, except like if it's like an actual, they ask me for it. Just like I prefer to weigh the pros and the cons with them and assist them in making the decision, but not tell them what to do, because then I don't have to live with the consequences. They have to. So if you tell somebody what to do and then they do what you said and then things go sour, then what? So, that's my advice right now. Just after I said I don't give advice. Does that make me a hypocrite too? I think so. This is terrible. Back to the self-care. So if a stranger came to me and I saw them exhausted and they told me, "Oh my goodness, I have so much to do and I have to make that video, but I really don't have to because nobody's gonna hold it against me if I don't post a video this week. But again, I really want to. I'm exhausted. I have an early morning, can barely keep my eyes open. I haven't had dinner yet." All those things are true. And I would tell them, put yourself first. That video can wait. People are gonna understand. But here I am recording that video because I really want to, because I think I've mentioned that in a previous video. So much of my control of the things that I want to do have been taken away from me because of my health situation, that every time I can actually get back some of that control, I'll do it. And maybe it's not right. I shouldn't be doing that. Maybe I shouldn't be recording that video. too late. I'm already doing it. But just to tell you that it's not as simple as just knowing what the right thing to do is and then doing the right thing when it comes to yourself. You can say that to somebody else. It's always easier to see the thing in somebody else and tell them what's the best course of action than actually doing it with yourself, because you have so much, especially when it's something that you were not necessarily used to doing for a long time. We all have a lot of things that we have to unlearn. I've had to, or not necessarily unlearn, but let's say, okay, yeah, maybe unlearn, but also just like, even if you don't unlearn the whole thing, you just have to learn new skills. So, because you never really forget the other things that you learned before, you just replace them with other things. And so it took you so long to build the previous habits, then it's going to take you a long time to build the new ones. And this is the process of becoming less of a hypocrite for myself, because I want to be able to be as quick when I see something in somebody else and they ask me for an advice, and I help them reach a decision that's going to help them in their life. I want to be the same way with myself. And I want it to feel as easy as it feels when I'm talking about somebody else. And it's not always the case. So this is one of the ways where I know I struggle, and I have to be better. So I'd like to know about your ways as well. There are other things like where, I mean, it took me a long time, way too long, I think, to stop listening to R. Kelly. I'm just putting it out there. I mean, not as long as other people, but I mean, that's not really like, I'm not, there's no cues. There's no cues comparing myself to other people. It was just bad. We should have just, um, but when I Believe I Can Fly came out, I was still listening, and I stepped in the name of love as well. Then I stopped, but it took me long enough, and I'm not proud of myself about that at all. And there are other situations, where I knew something was not right, not necessarily the extent to which that thing was not right, but it should have been enough for me to figure out that, I should have, but I didn't. And I can't always, explain why. Sometimes it's just because I love that thing too much. Sometimes it's just because I managed to justify it to myself long enough that it still felt kind of okay. I could still look at myself in the mirror. And other times it was just because I didn't really care as much as I thought I did. And I think I had to be honest with myself about that. So this was one of those things. The one thing that I really struggle with is my love of football. I love football. This is I like I don't have the words to explain to you how much I love football. And but football is so problematic in so many ways. The violence, the racism, the domestic violence, the not that it's much more than like regular society, right? It's pretty much the same, but I mean, it's like when you know that those things are happening, the the lack of care for the well-being of the players, that's really like the thing that it's really hard for me. In, in the beginning, when I fell in love with it, it was really because like I loved, like I called it poetry in emotion, but also I love the violence. I used to be violent myself. Maybe don't let that fool you. But I love the sounds of those bodies like hitting each other. And I didn't know what it was actually doing to their bodies. But I mean, if you're like a normal person with a functioning brain, you can see that it's not normal to do that to somebody else. But I didn't care. I loved it. And I didn't dig deeper to find out what was going on until later, because I just wanted to enjoy. And I enjoyed, and I still do. But I know so much now, and I write about those things. So I know so much about the behind the scenes. I know what happens to the players when their careers are over. I know also why, when their careers are cut short, what happens to them and their family members and the people who care about them. I And yet I'm still here watching. I'm actually wearing my team's colors now. And I don't know what it would take for me to stop. I don't know what would be the thing that would make me say, okay, as much as I love this thing, I just cannot. Because I've been able to do it for other things. I just cannot with football. And so I think the fact that I write about those things, that I advocate for athletes, current and former athletes, that I talk about the racism in the space, that I talk about the fact that we need to get rid of all the racist imagery against indigenous people that are still out there. Even though there's been progress, it's still really bad, and I want it to stop. I talk about all those things. I write about all those things. I raise awareness. I make it my mission to make a difference. I want to make the space better. I want to make the sports better. There's no way you can make football safe, but you can make it better. And that doesn't absolve me from my hypocrisy at all. But I feel like by trying to actually make a difference, I'm still being helpful. And maybe that's just my way of justifying not being able to quit. So you tell me what you think. Am I being like a really, really big hypocrite right now and trying to justify why I'm still watching, even though I already told you why I shouldn't? Or do you understand why it's hard for me to quit? And maybe you think that I'm doing the right thing by writing about those things and raising awareness while still watching. Because I could be writing about those things and not watch. I just can't right now. I just can't. So that's me. So I want to hear about you. And also, I didn't make that video to bring myself to the carpet just to say, oh, how horrible of a person I am, or you, how horrible of a person you are, right? Because that's not the point. And we are not horrible people. Some of us are maybe, but in general, we're not. It's just that I feel like when you acknowledge something in yourself, you can improve on that thing. And by improving ourselves individually, we also improve our society. And maybe there will be less and less things that we will be hypocrites about, because we'll make our lives, our collective lives, better by removing some of those things that are really bad, by finding solutions to make things better, right? So that was the point. Yes, we're hypocrites, and we're probably going to continue to be, but if we can find ways to do a better job by ourselves first, we're going to make a better job for this society that we live in together. And that's what I want for all of us. So I thank you for watching. I'm so surprised I didn't start yawning in the middle of that video because I'm so exhausted. But I'm glad I did it. And I'm going to take care of myself after that. I really appreciate you for watching me week after week. I've been loving this new adventure, and I want to continue to grow with you. So let me know in the comments what you think. Keep sharing the video and liking it, subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good one.